What is going on, Twintendo Nation? Hope you're having an awesome day. And in today's Pokemon Go video, I'm going to be talking about a massive update that went live yesterday. I know some of you will have heard of it because obviously it did go out live yesterday. I didn't get a chance to make a video on it. But for those who haven't heard about it, this video will explain all the new changes and the new things that have been included in the Pokemon Go update, such as the method of evolving Pokemon has changed. You can now power up Pokemon, nickname and favorite Pokemon, and there's also been some new items included. Now, all of this new information was provided by the Sylph Road. If you don't know who they are, they're a community of Pokemon Go fans and players. They're on Reddit and they've done an amazing job since Pokemon Go has basically been announced on just keeping people up to date with everything Pokemon Go related. So I'm going to leave a link to their Reddit page in the description. Definitely do check them out and definitely subscribe if you want to stay up to date with more Pokemon Go news. But anyway, let's get on with the list of leaks. So first of all, there's a new item called the Lure Patch, which attracts Pokemon to Pokestops for 15 minutes when deployed. There is a new item called Stardust, which is used to increase a Pokemon's CP, which is combat points, and HP. Now before this update, Pokemon's CP was at a set level, so whenever you caught it, whatever CP it was, that would stay that way. Unless you obviously evolved that Pokemon, then its combat power would go up. But people weren't happy about that. They wanted to improve their Pokemon, because if you wanted a stronger Pokemon of that species, you'd basically have to go find another one and catch it, because I'm pretty sure combat power was linked to your trainer level back then. So whatever your trainer level was, the higher that was, the more likely you'd find a more powerful Pokemon of that species. So it is really good that you can power up Pokemon. That means you won't have to go and find the same Pokemon again, which is really good. Now probably the biggest thing in this new update is a new item called Candy, which has actually replaced evolution shards altogether. Now Candy is earned by catching Pokemon, hatching eggs and transferring Pokemon to the Professor, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Now Candy can be used to power up and evolve a Pokemon. Now all previous evolution shards will be converted over to Candy with this release, so whatever evolution shards you had before, they'll be changed to Candy. Now Candy is specific to the Pokemon's evolution family. So for example, Bulbasaur Candy is obtained by catching Bulbasaur, Ivysaur and Venusaur, as well as hatching or transferring any Pokemon in the Bulbasaur family. Now personally, I really like the idea of Candy instead of evolution shards, because it definitely makes more sense to evolve a Pokemon through this method than evolution shards, because obviously if you give a Pokemon in the main games enough rare candy, it will evolve, which does make sense. So think of it as just leveling up the Pokemon. The next thing I want to talk about in this update is something called Daily Defender Bonus. Trainers can earn Stardust and Pokecoins for each Pokemon you have defending a gym. The Defender bonus can be redeemed from the trainer profile screen in the top left corner. So according to the Sylph Road, all testers currently defending a gym got the same Defender bonus, which was 5,000 Stardust and 100 Pokecoins, which kind of gives you an incentive to actually go out and put Pokemon at gyms, which I feel like a lot of people were complaining that there wasn't really any reason to put Pokemon at gyms originally. Now the next things included in this update aren't as big as the Candies and the Stardust inclusion, but they are still quite important. So nearby Pokemon distances are now in 20-meter increments instead of 50. You can now sort your Pokemon by recent catches and favourites, as well as previous sort options. So I really like the idea of favourites. Basically means you can find your Pokemon a lot quicker. Pokemon which have been deployed at a gym now have an icon next to them, so apparently they didn't have one beforehand, so you wouldn't really know which were at the gym and which weren't. There's also been tons of new badges, and I don't mean like gym badges, so one for each Pokemon type. Number of deployed Pokemon, attacks 1, defenses 1, deployed total, prestige dropped and prestige raised. So if you've ever played Niantic's previous game Ingress, you could earn like badges and kind of like awards basically for achievements and stuff, so it seems to be very similar to that. You can nickname your favourite Pokemon, which I talked about earlier. I really like that because a lot of people complaining it seems a bit soulless Pokemon Go. You just basically release Pokemon, well, catch and release Pokemon to evolve your Pokemon. That's changed. You can now nickname and favourite your Pokemon, so they seem to be learning what kind of Pokemon is all about. You get 50 Stardust awarded for catching a Rattata, so there is an incentive to catch Pokemon, not just leveling up your trainer profile, but also getting items such as Stardust. Now one of my favourite features in this new update is instead of releasing Pokemon, you actually transfer them to the Professor, and in doing so you get this confirmation saying you can't take it back after it's transferred to the Professor. Do you really want to transfer whatever Pokemon it is to the Professor? And for transferring a Pokemon, you get 1 candy from the Professor. Now as I mentioned earlier in the video, this candy you receive from the Professor is in relation to the Pokemon family you transferred to them. So for example, if you transferred a Bulbasaur, Ivysaur or Venusaur over to the Professor, you'd get a candy for the Bulbasaur family. There have also been a few visual overhauls to the gyms in Pokemon Go. So for example, the Pokemon that a gym leader is using to defend a gym will now be displayed on top of the gym icon. Also, another cool feature is a timestamp and location of the Pokemon catch. So the date and time as well as the location of where a Pokemon was caught will now be displayed on each Pokemon's information page. As you guys can see from this picture, you can see a little map. So it looks really cool. They're putting in a lot of detail now into Pokemon catches and just kind of individuality about Pokemon, because there was a lot of complaints, as I said, that when you catch a Pokemon, it's basically useless if you have another one of them. So I'm glad to see that they're actually improving on their own game. Now the last pieces of information I want to talk about is the Stardust given when you catch a Pokemon and hatch a Pokemon. So for catching any Pokemon, it seems the reward is 50 Stardust and 1 candy per Pokemon, and hatching eggs seem to give a lot of Stardust. Apparently it's around 1,000 Stardust each, so it's definitely worth finding eggs and hatching them if you want to power up your other Pokemon. So that's pretty much it for this big update. It's definitely improved the game. I'm really looking forward to Pokemon Go again, I must say. But anyway guys, if you did enjoy this video, definitely hit the like button, really appreciate it. And if you're new to the Twintendo Nation, definitely hit the subscribe button down below to stay up to date with everything Pokemon Go and Pokemon Sun and Moon related. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. I have another Pokemon Go video planned for tomorrow. I basically want to wrap up the pre-game coverage for Pokemon Go this month, so there's probably going to be a lot of uploads about Pokemon Go, but there's also going to be a few new series starting as well this month, so hopefully you're looking forward to it. Anyway guys, that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace!